by rule, you are technically not a tennis fan unless you've heard of Gil Gross and you are familiar with his work. And you should, and you are going to, because he is a growing name in the business. And I'm so excited to highlight him on the On to Something podcast, because truly, Gil is onto something here with what he's doing in tennis media. I'm Bryan Fenley. I am a broadcaster for Fox Sports Radio, and I do some streaming for the ATP Tour as a broadcaster. And Gil, with Tennis Channel, you're host and play-by-play, you're doing podcasts. And so we're going to look at your career and what makes you inspirational. And of course, you can follow Gil on Twitter, Gil_Gross. Please subscribe to his YouTube channel, 11,000 subscribers and counting. He's got podcasts on Tennis Channel Network and their podcast platform. He also has his own stuff with Monday Match Analysis, which I feel is something that I weekly will take in. And Gil, first of all, I appreciate you doing this. As much as you know about this sport, and for you, it's been so inherent to your core for so many years growing up, what is it about the sport that you still want to learn a lot about, or you feel like you can learn about that you haven't quite tapped into yet?
I think, and first of all, thanks for having me on and for the kind words at the top there. It's where the sport is going, because if you stay in one place, if you say, this is how the game is played right now, and this is what I know about what makes a player successful, and what are the things that are the most important things in the sport, if you stay in one place, you're going to get passed by. So it's, what's the cutting edge? What are players going to look like in 10 years? What's going to be the next evolution in the sport? I think that's the thing that kind of will always keep you going. You'll never be like, okay, I'm good, I understand this game, because the game is going to keep changing and you got to try to stay with it.
The sports media game keeps changing, and you have been able to evolve. So from a tennis standpoint, but also from a Gil Gross standpoint, you're very competitive. That is part of your nature, and that's what has led to your success and will continue to lead to your success. Where did those competitive instincts originate?
Probably my mother.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think my competitiveness was the main reason I was drawn to tennis. And then, by the way, it's also kind of a reason to be drawn to broadcasting, because it's not like, if you want to be, and I'm sure these people are competitive as well, but if you want to be a lawyer, once you have a law degree, you can pretty much practice law. It's kind of how it works, like, you're good. But obviously with broadcasting, it's kind of like acting. It's kind of like being a high-level chef. Like, there are just more people who want to do it. The math is awful, unfortunately. So I think also broadcasters are generally competitive people, because they kind of have to be, I think. Anyway, the competitiveness, I think I liked the one-on-one with tennis. I wanted to feel that responsibility of winning or losing. I didn't really look. I played baseball. That was my secondary sport, and all my childhood friends were from baseball. So I love team sports. Everyone should be in team sports. But I think my competitiveness came kind of from just seeing, wanting to win. Again, like, I wasn't really joking with what I said at the top. When my mom played softball, she wasn't any good or anything, but she just played softball. And like, when I struck out, she was like genuinely upset, as a mother. And she wasn't crazy or like pressuring me. She wasn't like, Gil, you got to go make the majors. But she was like, damn, like, she genuinely was like, Gil struck out, I'm upset. And I saw that. I think that made me upset. And that made me want to do really, really well. Now, baseball, I didn't have much talent in. I had more talent in tennis as well. So it worked out that way.
How much of that notion of not wanting to strike out in this business and to please your mom has played into the work ethic that you've had to this point?
I think a lot. Now, it's funny, you just actually sparked by you saying work ethic, you sparked something that my dad always says, like a broken record, which is, I don't know if this is original from him, but he's like, you do the work, you get the results. It's kind of his thing. Now, I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think that people come with different levels of advantages. There's luck involved. It's not as clear cut as you do the work, you get the results. But certainly you have to do the work, and that's where it starts. And again, like I think in tennis, if you're not grinding a little bit harder than everyone else, you're not giving yourself any chance. And to continue on this flow we have between comparing athletic competition and the broadcasting industry, I am 5'6". I have pretty good hand eye, but I am not a magician like Fabio Fognini or something. And I just have like this magical touch with the racket. No, for me to win in tennis, I had to probably be more fit than my opponent. I had to work harder in fitness, and that sucks. I mean, nobody enjoys fitness. Maybe some people. Most 90% of people do not enjoy fitness. I had to be more fit, and I had to win points the hard way and go cross court and win long rallies. And I couldn't hit aces. I had to hit kick serves and try to hit my spots and win rallies. Like, it was not going to be easy because I didn't have that talent level. I was not hit a big serve and hit a forehand winner and I'm going to do well in tennis. That was never going to be me. So I think the first place I learned hard work, I always say this, was at Chris Lewitt Tennis Academy. And he actually trained in, his coaching style developed in Spain. And this was a time where obviously they were training on clay courts, and the hallmarks of Spanish tennis were racket speed, footwork, and consistency. They weren't really too much focused on volleys, weren't too much focused on serves. It was the modern game. It's going to be a baseline game, develop the forehand as a weapon, keep the ball in court, be consistent, and swing fast, and have great footwork. That was Spanish tennis. So that was kind of how I was taught to play the game. But as a result, I mean, I remember the first day coming back home from Chris Lewitt Tennis Academy, I was like, I don't think I can do this. And I told this story on my YouTube channel recently. I cried afterwards. I'm like, we just signed up for how many weeks? I think this is too hard. I don't think I can do this. The first week continued to be really, really hard. But what happens is it gets easier and easier as your body just gets used to it. And so does your mind, just pushing through that. The kind of suffering, quote unquote, physical suffering that it takes to do it, you get used to it. And that was the first time I did something that I didn't think I was going to be able to do. That's a good feeling. Like, I think everyone should do that at some point, to actually do something that at one point they were like, I can't do this.
Yeah, that's so well said. Gil Gross is with us. He's, of course, on Twitter at Gil_Gross. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. You start the podcast, and I know you started out doing all kinds of sports, and you did a little bit of radio stuff as well. And then I read about how, I guess, the radio station shut down. You then decide to really channel in on tennis. And, Gil, so many people love to think about an idea for a podcast, but the consistency that you have brought, sometimes the results take time, the viewers that you've built up this large, vast audience. What kept you pushing forward, even at the early stages when you were getting people to watch, but it wasn't to your standards, knowing the kind of content you were generating? And you have to be patient at that point. And obviously the patience is paying off.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have watched myself when I first started off. So there's that. It definitely takes a little bit of, on the internet, I think with anything, it takes a little bit of faith, because usually it takes a long time, and it does take consistency. And I don't know, I kind of believed these things. I don't know if they were even true, but people said, oh, the YouTube algorithm wants you to hit 100 videos and they want you to get, over, 1,000 subscribers. And then they start recommending your stuff more. That's the crazy thing about YouTube. And that's why it's a little bit easier to grow a YouTube channel than it is a podcast. If we're going to get technical here, is because with YouTube, you have an algorithm and a search engine. And that kind of, it has a negative and it has a positive. The negative is you could be like, why am I not getting views? This is YouTube's fault, not
Yeah.
mine. But the positive is that you're likely going to get some eyes on your stuff once in a while, and then you just hope that those eyes turn into people who like what they see and subscribe. So I guess it was trusting that consistency was going to pay off. But Bryan, I would have stopped if the audience didn't end up keeping me going. And part of it was listening to the audience, because nobody was interested in anything I had to say unless I was really talking about tennis. I'm slightly exaggerating there, but it's kind of true. I made a couple of videos, and this is the nature of YouTube. A couple of videos will kind of be way bigger than anything else you did. And I'm talking way bigger as in 10 times more views than anything else. And you have to listen to that. And those were videos where I still remember the first tennis video I ever did was when Federer beat Nadal in the 2017 Australian Open final. And I was just talking about what Federer did with his backhand. With his court positioning, he hugged the baseline a little bit more. He didn't let the ball bounce up above his shoulders. So he was taking it on the rise a little bit earlier before it got above shoulder level. And he was flattening out the ball and hitting on the rise and hitting that ball really with a lot of conviction cross court. That kind of technical observation I made and I shared with everyone, it was the perfect storm of the YouTube algorithm rewarded me. People were like, that's a good technical point. And I liked that. And it just became a matter of, I did other sports for maybe another year, but I made sure to keep doing tennis. Then when I got to college, I realized I was going to have a lot less time to focus on this YouTube channel, and I was going to need to optimize this. So I made a decision, I think after my first semester in college, I'm going to toss everything else. I'm going to do a tennis show. I'm going to do it every Monday, and I'm going to focus on doing really, really deep analysis into one match, which is generally the men's final, every single week. And that was just the formula that made sense for my skill set and my schedule. And I was able to not, part of the consistency thing is I was able to make sure I wasn't biting off more than I can chew. This is what I can manage. This is what I can be consistent with. So this is what I'll do. This is what I'm committing to. I didn't say I'm going to do 3 videos a week because I knew it wasn't going to happen.
When you sit down or you're at an event, you're calling it, or let's just say you're watching and you're analyzing one of those finals that you were talking about that you'll do your Monday match analysis on. What is it like living in your headspace as far as what you are doing in processing a match that is incomparable to, say, the casual tennis fan and watching tennis? What's different about the mental processing of Gil Gross than somebody who likes tennis, but is just one of your common fans?
That's a great question. I'm pushing myself past a certain comfort level when it comes to focus. I wouldn't recommend someone, if they want to enjoy a tennis match, to focus as much as I'm focusing. It does. I'm not saying this is some great sacrifice. I'm still watching a tennis match, but the level of focus that I'm bringing to it is a little bit past what I would bring myself if I were just trying to enjoy it. And I know that because I can kind of dip in and out if I know I'm covering a match on YouTube. I'm watching it pretty differently than if I know that I'm watching it casually and for fun. So that's the biggest thing. It's just I'm looking for patterns is the simple thing. It's what is happening in this match repeatedly that is favoring one player or another. Or I'll come into a match and say, I think these are going to be the key patterns. And with that knowledge coming in, now I can look for those things and either confirm or kind of see how they play out. Generally, I think my analysis becomes better if it's a matchup that I've seen over and over and over again. For example, Djokovic and Berrettini have played, they played at Wimbledon, and then they played at Roland Garros, and then they played at US Open. I'm going to see that match pretty well at this point. When they play, I understand what's important when they play. The second thing is a lot of the time, especially for a big match that I'm covering on Monday Match Analysis, I do have to watch things twice. And that is, again, like that's not really something I recommend for people to, when it comes to an enjoyment level. But yeah, there are a lot of things that I will not pick up on the first time. And I will pick up on the second time, which is, again, like that is what separates me. But it's just, anyone can do it if they focus and if they want to do it. But that's something that I do that the casual fan won't.
What separates you when it comes to digesting a match calling situation when you are calling the match and broadcasting it, as opposed to you, say, playing in a match? Where are the similarities? Where are the differences as far as your mindset from one of those realms to the other?
I think you want to try to put yourself in the position of what if I were out there playing. When it comes to calling matches, I think I'm still really in the learning process of trying to find the balance, find my voice, and how much kind of, because the thing is, especially if I'm sitting next to someone who like I've done matches with Jan Michael Gamble, who got up as high as 13 in the world and played center court at Wimbledon and played on Arthur Ashe Stadium and had all these experiences. You have to kind of focus, well, how am I getting the most out of them? Even though, right, it's kind of switching roles than when I'm on YouTube and it's like, okay, I'm the show here. You kind of have to shift. So I'm still really kind of learning about how best to do that and how to get the most out of my analysts, and trying to use my tennis knowledge in a way that is most helpful for the listener in that setting. But in terms of like playing matches, I just think that's what makes tennis different. And one of the things that makes it so cool is, Al Michaels is not going to call Sunday Night Football and be like, well, look, if I were playing quarterback, this is how I would feel.
Yeah, that's well said.
Because the viewers also, a lot of them play. And I know that that's always something I want to keep in my mind, is that there are people watching this match who are relating to the players in ways that they do not relate to Patrick Mahomes. They are saying, I want to do that like Rafa, or I want to do that like Serena. And I would like my commentators to relate what we're seeing in the pro game to the recreational game. I always want to stay in touch with that.
That way you're able to, yeah, like you said, connect with all viewers. They feel like they're included in the broadcast. My final question for you, Gil Gross is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. It wasn't long ago, Gil, actually earlier today as we tape this, I had on somebody I think you know at Syracuse, and Scott Hecht.
Yeah.
If I were to ask Scott, what was it like watching Gil Gross grow at Syracuse in that Newhouse program, what's he going to tell me about you?
Oh boy. Scott is the best. Scott's amazing. And I just was so proud of what we were able to accomplish broadcasting Syracuse women's tennis at Syracuse. So I would hope that he would say that I was, great to work with on a personal level. But I think that we would both agree, Scott and I would both agree, that when I was a senior and we had technically 2 years, because as a freshman, I was covering the women's tennis team for the local TV station, not for ACC Network. But when I was a senior, we were doing the best tennis broadcasts that had been done at Syracuse by far, way better than when I was a sophomore or when I was a junior. I think we would both 100% agree with that. And that's what I think we were really proud of. I mean, we did our last match and we were like, that was the best tennis show that we've done. And I mean, that was so rewarding. And look, the experience that was, and also just the tape that I got from it and
Sure.
what I was able to show, Like, look, this is me doing a tennis broadcast with multiple cameras and a producer and a director and an analyst. I mean, this is why I went to Syracuse, and this is why I think if you are a sports broadcaster, I am biased, but I think you should try to go to Syracuse. I mean, that is why.
Yeah, Syracuse is the best. It is the gold standard, and no wonder the success that you're having there is paying off in this next chapter of your life. And I'm so excited to see your career skyrocketing, and I look forward to meeting you and crossing paths with you in this beautiful tennis world we have. But Gil, you are someone who I've admired. I have watched so much of your content over the years. I have learned so much from you. I started out this interview and I got a little starstruck because of that. So I'm so excited for you, and I look forward to continuing to follow you and getting the word out about all the great work you are doing. Gil, I'm Bryan Fenley. So grateful for you. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you as well at some point. And look, this was a ton of fun. Thanks so much for having me on. And you're way too kind.